Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This video is being recorded on the University of Guelph campus, which is on the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit and is part of the land between the Lakes Purchase, Treaty Number 3, the Dish with One Spoon Covenant made between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Mississaugas. It is an agreement to share territory and protect these lands, now known as part of the Ontario, Quebec, and New York state. The covenant reminds us of our common connections of the land and to each other, recognizing the contributions and importance of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples is an important part of our collective commitment to make the promise of truth and reconciliation real in our communities. And hello, everybody, again, and welcome to this conversation about cybersecurity in the agri-food system. In the last 10 years, data has become critical for farming. Every year, an increasing number of farmers in North America are using data to know when to plant and spray crops, when to release and store crops to market, and other decisions that affect farming production. Just to give you an example, an overview of all the situation, just in the dairy sector, actually, robots can generate almost 120 indicators per cow per day, from fat, protein, milk color, the shape of the cow. It's just a bunch of data. So in today's world, farmers and companies have access to an immense amount of information. So one of the questions that raised is how do we protect all this data? And to answer these questions, we have invited Dr. Dehghantanha and Conor Russell to explain why cybersecurity is critical to transition to safer and more efficient agri-food systems in Canada. Dr. Dehghantanha is an academic entrepreneur in cybersecurity, a Canada Research Chair in Cybersecurity and Threat Intelligence, and Associate Professor in Cybersecurity at the University of Guelph. He is the director of the Cyber Science Lab, a research lab dedicated to advanced research and training in cybersecurity, and the director and founder of the Master of Cybersecurity and Threat Intelligence program at the University of Guelph. Conor Russell is a researcher who studies the social dimensions of digital agriculture, specifically cybersecurity issues from a farmer-focused lens. Conor graduated from the master's program in Geography, Environment, and Geomatics at the University of Guelph. He's a consultant for the Community Safety Knowledge Alliance Cybersecurity in Agriculture project. And my name is Margarita Fontecha, and I will be the facilitator of this conversation. I am an Aral Food Institute scholar, and I'm doing my PhD in rural studies at the University of Guelph. Also, I'm working with AFI in the knowledge mobilization strategies, like what do we need to know to transition to more efficient and resilient systems. So thank you again, Dr. Dehghantanha and Conor, for accepting this invitation from the Aral Food Institute. And I will start with the very basic of this conversation. So, Dr. Dehghantanha, for a person not related to the field, what is cybersecurity?
Well, yes, cybersecurity includes technologies, processes, and even sometimes people that we train to protect the data from the time they are produced, they are generated, up until they are removed and destructed, to make sure that these data cannot be accessed by unauthorized persons or unauthorized parties.
And why do you think it's so hard for people outside the field to actually get to know or get interested or engage in cybersecurity?
Well, in our life, most of the people get used to work with kind of static systems. For example, you are repairing something, right? Or building a system. But in cybersecurity, we are dealing with active adversaries, people who are advanced, having technologies and have the means and interests to compromise. So this is creating a fully dynamic environment that no single technology or no single process would be adequate or would be sufficient. And you are looking at a very dynamic environment that changes almost every day. And keeping yourself up to date with all these changes is a challenge that most of people and organizations may not be capable or willing to take them all. But with more digitization, there seems to be no way around it, right?
So, Connor, considering these dynamic systems and how everything is changing, from a farmer's perspective, why is it important to talk about cybersecurity in agri-food systems?
Absolutely. So the main reason is, like Ali kind of mentioned, not just this sector, but especially this sector is becoming increasingly digitized, right? Which is great. There's a lot of neat new efficiencies in farming that come with really interesting ag tech. But digital or smart agriculture has novel risks, like cybersecurity. Other sectors like banks, governments, hospitals, they've all digitized over the decades, which again brought great new efficiencies, but these are also sectors that have to continually defend themselves against cyber attack daily. These sectors have created infrastructure for defending themselves, but the agri-food sector is lagging behind a bit. And it's a little more diverse than these other sectors, perhaps a bit more patchwork. It's not quite as uniform, which means while the sector will be able to learn from other sectors' digitization histories, there's going to be particular things about agri-food that'll be specific to agri-food. And it's important to talk about because we've already had some attacks happening, right? The Agrimark group had a breach, and then our neighbors to the south, the JBS meat plant, was attacked by a Russian affiliated hacking group. So on a personal level, it's important because farmers need to protect, like you said, their data, their information, their clients' information, and the security of their farm operation. And on a bigger level, we have groups like the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, all these folks taking a look at this important area. There's just a lot of risks that farmers need to keep in mind, and lots of scenarios that could happen, but it's just important to raise that collective awareness. And all this to say, you don't want to alarm folks. There are ways to prepare, and farmers are already great risk managers in all other areas of their farm, so we can apply previous skills to the problem. But basically, talking about it to get ahead of the problem before it becomes a bigger one.
I just have a question, and this comes from, I think it was a study that Dr. Ali Dehghantanha was leading in 2020 that says there is like a collective awareness about, oh, we need to include the cybersecurity risk as part of like farming today. However, when you see the investment, the actual investment of cybersecurity tools is very, very low. This is a question that I have for both of you. Why do you think it's like, oh, we have the awareness and everyday farmers and private companies are like, we need to protect our data, but when you compare to the actual investment is so low compared to other areas of investment in the agri-food sector?
Well, I have been in cybersecurity for around 15 years now. So that's like going back to the birth of the industry as a cybersecurity. And I have seen this situation they're talking about in almost all industries. I remember the days that we were warning all hospitals that your data are, you're vulnerable, you're in interest of the hacking groups, do something about it. We raised the alert for the hospital owners, managers, governors, everyone. And no one is giving real attention up until a big compromise happened, like in the UK, and several hospitals actually went out of service, and then the money flows. I would say the main reason that we are not seeing a major investment in cybersecurity at the moment in the food and ag sector is lack of a high profile compromise. And that would come, I can tell you that would come, right, very soon, sooner that you understand, and then the market will explode, right? So that to me seems to be the main reason, but we do have some countries and some areas, right, that they are thinking about this problem beforehand. They are starting to make investment, they are starting to make technologies, they are starting to educate people, but far from seeing the wide adoption or the wide awareness.
For sure, yeah, that's exactly right. It's unfortunate part of, I think, human systems that we're very good at being reactionary, but not as great at prevention and long-term thinking. So hopefully the sector, we can look at other sectors and what they've gone through and try to avoid the worst of it as we're digitizing. Besides what Ali said, I think two main things come to mind. Like I mentioned, the agri-food sector is very diverse with many different farm types and different evolving technologies. This patchwork digitization makes sort of a uniform investment a little more challenging because there's a need for that farm-specific, sector-specific context. And besides that, there's a lot of stakeholders involved, right? So the farmer, the digital ag retailer, industry associations, the government, and considering which stakeholders have which responsibilities to what part of cybersecurity for the farmer is important and kind of informs where investment goes in the system. I know when I interviewed farmers about it, asking them where they felt, which stakeholders they felt were most responsible for cybersecurity aspects, even their own answers were very varied. So some felt that the farmer is the most important responsible person, some felt that the government was, some felt that the digital ag retailers were. So I'd say it's important to have that kind of stakeholder analysis when considering investment here. But yeah, basically everything Ali said, and I think those 2 points as well.
Yeah, and I think just to carry on with the conversation, like the first barrier is the farmers, right? But farmers need like another kind of resources. And one of the things that have caught my attention is like, do farmers need new skills to engage in cybersecurity? Do you think there is like a gap there that when I say we, it's like the government and privates, and I don't know who needs to fill in,
This is a big part of what I was researching recently. I'd say, do farmers need new skills? It's sort of a yes and no. Farmers already have a lot of relevant skills that are useful for addressing cybersecurity. Like I mentioned, they're incredible risk managers. They employ risk management on their farm daily. That being said, there's an important question of how much of cybersecurity is the farmer's job. Learning and applying basic cyber hygiene will include new knowledge and skills that'll go a long way. And even non-farmers should be putting small time into learning cybersecurity skills in our ever digitizing world. But higher level defense or like in-depth technical knowledge of cybersecurity, I don't know if that should be farmers' full responsibility, right? They shouldn't have to get a degree in cybersecurity to operate their farm. When my credit card gets hacked, I have a number to call, right? I have a credit card company. They talk me through my next steps. They cancel the card, send a new one. They cancel fraudulent transactions. They even consider investigating the hacker. And sometimes the systems are so good, they call me before I even know I was hacked. So here, when we talk about cybersecurity farmers, considering the system around them and who's responsible for what to help empower them as like the frontline people, agricultural retailers who sell digital farm tech, they often already charge farmers fees for processing their data, storing their data, protecting it. So having someone at the company who could talk people through cybersecurity stuff could easily be incorporated. There's a role for governments, academia, NGO for that too, to be supportive. And yeah, as these conversations become mainstream, important to see where responsibility is. But basically, those who have the resources, the responsibility and capacity to assist, it's important to consider that because it can't all be on the backs of farmers. There's a role for them to have that basic cyber hygiene. And the farmers I've interviewed have said they want more education on that. That's, sector and context specific for them and has accessible language and kind of like your first question, isn't hidden behind kind of gatekeepery stuff. So there's a role for farmers, but yeah, they shouldn't have to have degrees in it to operate,
Right. I may just add to the Conor response here that the first question that I have heard a lot as well in the field is who would be responsible for providing this security? And my answer is always the one who is going to be impacted is responsible. So if you are a farmer and you are being hacked and your business would go down, well, you are responsible for securing it, right? No one else, not the solution providers, not the equipment providers, they are not, right? So you would be liable for that, right? And if you are like a service provider, say a data service provider to the farmers, and you are getting hacked, then you would be liable. And that's the rule of thumb in cybersecurity, right? Whoever is impacted would be liable and would be responsible, right? That's how the rule goes, right? So saying that, as Conor indicated several times, we are having different groups which are not that much uniform, at least at the moment, right, in the digital ag sector. And each are playing important roles. It is important for each of them to understand what are the responsibilities and the roles they should play in securing the ecosystem. For example, if you have a digital service provider that has the best security in place, but the farmers on the farm and their devices are vulnerable, well, information would be stolen and would be leaked through the farm. They don't really need to go to the digital service provider. Same can goes with the equipment manufacturer. If you're having equipment that are vulnerable and can be used to compromise or to remotely access to the data, then attackers would compromise those and get access to the information, right? So I always avoid to specify one specific party and saying that this party is only responsible. No, that's everyone's responsibility to make the environment secure, right? But liabilities would be always on those who are impacted. And, the impact of, the other question or the other discussions I hear from the farmers a lot is like, I don't have any valuable information, right? Or everything that I am collecting or serving or sending is about, say, an animal or something that is like not that serious. But rule of thumb is if you are making money, you would definitely be the interest of the hackers. So don't forget that. And second, if you are having an infrastructure, then hackers are having interest to get your infrastructure and use it as a point to attack others, and then you will be liable, right? So you are not only responsible for protecting yourself, but you need to make sure that your infrastructure, your digitized and fully connected infrastructure is not misused by the attacker. I have seen cases that a small farming station become liable for worth of millions of dollars attack against banks because their infrastructure was not protected enough and the attackers will use that to attack the banks. And when these things are happening, everyone is suing the other party, right, for the liabilities, right? And I am pretty sure most of the business owners there don't want to be sued by a financial organization claiming that your infrastructure played a significant role in causing a damage to our systems and services, right? So going back to your question, so how much awareness or interaction are required by the farmers? We have gone through this system and this development in other industries. For example, with hospitals or, for example, with utility sector, right? So what I'm trying to say is there are actions that should be taken by farmers, right? The business owners are the only one who understand the value of data. The business owners are the only one who understand how much they can spend or invest on a specific capacity, right? And then the security people can advise them what they can achieve with that level of investment, or what are the best technologies, processes, or techniques to protect those data, right? What I'm trying to say is it shouldn't be expected that a cybersecurity and external person comes and give you a magic prescription that with that you're good. No, that never happens, right? And there are changes required on the normal day-to-day activities, right? You need to enable some technologies. You need to follow some guidelines to protect yourself, as it is the case for everyone else, right? But similar to other sectors, you are probably able to subscribe with third-party security service providers to provide you 24/7 days of the week defense against the solutions. That's not expected to happen by the farmers, but the changes are needed. Understanding of the business should all come from the farmers themselves.
Yeah, it's very interesting what you two says, because at the end it's like a system. It's not just one little tiny piece. We need like different pieces doing their role. And it also takes me to another question that I have, and it's one of the things that keeps coming up when talking about cybersecurity and why farmers or small association like small farmers association are saying is like, okay, if I share my data, who owns the data, who will protect it, and who actually can use it and for what purposes? So from your perspective, it's what actions or strategies can be implemented by the federal and provincial governments to reduce the uncertainty among farmers and industry? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I may start for this one, right? Minimally, governments, whether they are federal or provincial governments, need to come with a security standard for this field, right? And that security standard identifies the baseline, the minimum requirement for farmers, for service providers, for manufacturers in the field. And that would clear many things. Like in the past 2-3 years, we were trying to ask different levels of the governments that you need to have, similar to the way that you have a working group on the food safety, you need to have a working group on the ag cybersecurity, right? So they can set up the standard, the requirements that if you are active in the ag sector in Canada, these are the cybersecurity requirements that you should follow. We have seen the impact, the significant impact that these kind of standards can make in other sectors. For example, the utility sector, the energy sector, right? The moment the Ontario government, like in 2015, introduced the cybersecurity framework that they have for the Energy Board, we have seen a significant increase in the level of cybersecurity. Everyone was clear on what they need to know, who they should report to, and what actions they should take. Solution providers were aware of the information they should collect, they can process, and how they can process. So these are all going in that security standard per se, right, from the provincial or government organizations. That's something that is significantly lacking and hurting the sector at the moment, right? And that would even help the growth. There are a lot of solution providers, a lot of manufacturers out there that they want to grow faster, they want to provide services, but they simply don't know what they need to put in, right? And if the governments are coming with those standards, that would pave the growth. It's always rule of thumb. The cars that are you can drive a car that has the better brake system faster, right? So the cybersecurity is the brake system for the digitized world. If you want to actually grow fast in a digital world, you need to set up the cybersecurity properly so the businesses can grow, so the digitalization can grow, right? So what I'm trying to say is the main responsibility here for the government is to create working groups to come up with the standards, cybersecurity standards, and monitor that and advise all the parties here to reach to that level of the minimum required security.
Thank you. Conor, do you have some other thoughts regarding what are the actions or strategy from the federal and provincial governments?
Absolutely. Like I said, security standards would be a great first step. With also, small, medium, marginalized farmers, like some programs may be to help bridge the gap between where they are at and then meeting those standards too. Beyond that, I think the role of the government regarding cybersecurity and agri-food is supportive, preventative, and responsive. Experts I've spoken with who engage provincial and federal bodies on the topic say, first, recognizing it as a problem, which, bodies have already started to do so, create security standards, and then fund some relevant ministries for programming. And there's a few routes they can take from there. Now, I've spoken with other farmers on what sort of supports and solutions they would like to see from government bodies, and their answers were really interesting. So I remember some farmers talked about creating let's say like a program. I don't know if you've ever been part of the energy retrofit program for homeowners. So basically the government provides tools, installation, resources to be more energy efficient in the home. The farmers talked about the idea of having programs where the government supplied similar things, but for cybersecurity. Some of them liked the idea of a subsidy or receipt program for if someone's making investments of cybersecurity on their farm, which we determine is a collective good. We all want to be fed well and have secure food systems. Then part of that can be written off. Now, I think programs like that need to be targeted, right? So small, medium, and marginalized farmers, I think they have less capacity to upgrade themselves as easily. And in the case of attack, a lot less capacity to respond to attack. So while all farmers should have the opportunity to upgrade their systems, I think a targeted approach to reach out to farmers who have less capacity in prevention and response would be important. So sort of like that energy retrofit program, maybe like a tax credit rebate, that sort of stuff's been brought up by farmers as being seen by helpful by them. And beyond that, you bring up really good points about data governance earlier in your question. And we are living a very interesting time with data generally across other sectors too. So a lot of things we're a part of, our data is being used for monetary reasons that we aren't privy to and don't necessarily benefit from. There are important data governance things that I think the government's going to have to really grapple with. At the point there, it depends. Farmers have different agreements with different retailers, but in a lot of digital tech, farmers will pay retailers to process, store their data, and then sometimes they'll be a part of co-op networks where farmers can use each other's congregate data, and that's very helpful. Obviously, that data goes towards other things that these processes would make money from too. And how much ownership the farmer has over their own data is a concern that needs to be looked at for sure, especially when you consider right to repair conversations that are happening in digital ag tech too. So I think besides security standards and potential programs farmers have said would be helpful for them, I think questions on data governance and right to repair need to be addressed by people in the government to, I would hope, to provide a more equitable space where farmers can have more ownership of the data that they're producing.
Thank you. Thank you both. Finally, and this is from us as a university and being part of the academia community, how can we contribute to promote the use of cybersecurity in the agri-food system, understanding that we are part of the system and the University of Guelph is supporting Canada in this transition to more efficient and resilient agri-food systems?
Right, sure. I would say first maybe the awareness programs that can be built and can be shared could be the first step that can be taken by the academic and universities in general. Secondly, trying to advise and help the decision makers at all levels of what would be the best next actions to be taken, right? And third, and the most important from my point of view, is academics can serve as an independent validator of many of these technologies, standards, being independent on every vendor. So they need to continue playing the critical role that they have in analyzing these technologies, analyzing these systems. Because, you know, as I said, based on the experience that we have had in other sectors, the moment that we have the first high profile attack, everyone will be rushed to the market to get something and some solutions. And that's the time that the help of academics would be really needed to just provide an independent, fair view of the solutions available and applicable to different users in the market. So these are the things I think we can do beforehand up until the day comes and we are all receiving calls, right, from the people.
Thank you, Conor.
Absolutely. Be ready for when it happens, and then when it happens, you got it ready. I think incorporating cybersecurity knowledge into agri-food curriculum in classrooms would be a great idea. You know, the next generation of agri-food workers should know about digital ag and how cybersecurity interacts with that. As Ali is a testament to, you know, U of G already has great cybersecurity talent that, you know, can be used intra-university. I think it's a great way to uplift and connect departments too. Generally speaking, as workers engage agri-food spaces, you know, an operation is only as safe as its least secure employee. Like Ali said, people are included in cybersecurity. So all it takes is like one employee that wasn't secure to open an entire like company, depending on what they have access to. Academia could also create meaningful spaces for conversation and training on cybersecurity in ag, from farmer skills to research and from farmer skills and research into scales of national security and international relations. There's a lot of different spaces where agri-food, you know, data that's used on the farm can be, you know, hacked or stolen to influence trade negotiations, or if, you know, international hacking groups, which most hacking tends to come from other countries, like if that's used to impair an operation here or a large enough operation or enough of them, that can be a food crisis and a national security issue. So academia has a role to research these as a preventative, like I was saying, before they ever become a problem, and hopefully it never does. I think academia can also advocate for a systems approach to cybersecurity on the food sector. You know, academia is good at, you know, making these network maps and asking critical questions all the way. I think that would be important with that lens of empowering farmers, and also consider which stakeholders have the capacity, responsibility to do what, and give farmers the secure foundations they deserve to keep doing the important work of feeding us.
Oh, thank you so much again for being part of this panel today. We appreciate your expertise and sharing your knowledge on this very important topic. I feel it's like very top level and a lot of words, technical words, and then how we can make our own contribution to help others like me who are not very experts on this topic to understand why cybersecurity is so important. Thank you for the viewers for watching. We hope you can take away some valuable information about cybersecurity and why it's so important to the future of food. If you would like to learn more, please visit AFI website, arrowfootinstitute.ca. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.